Hi, this is Simonos. I had a question from my friend who was not really understanding what is the difference between the first crack and the second crack. So in this video, I will shortly explain what is the first crack and the second crack and how to differentiate one from the other. Stay tuned. So a lot of people actually, while roasting coffee beans, the majority of them will experience the first crack. This is not an exclusion because the first crack is a natural process and you cannot kind of avoid it. Of course, you can avoid it if you underdevelop beans. So in that reason, you are just like kind of burning them and you are not experiencing the first crack. The first crack usually happens somewhere around 160, 180 temperatures. It really depends on the coffee beans that you're roasting, but the temperature is something between 160 and 180. My coffee beans, from my experience, are always getting the first crack something roughly about 170 degrees. And the first crack is usually noticed very simply. It's like a popping sound. It's like a popcorns popping in your machine. No matter it's a hot air machine or it's a drum roaster, you usually will experience the popping sound, and it will be quite intense and quite noisy. And no matter how noisy is your roasting machine, you will definitely experience the first crack. So the first crack is usually a popcorn sound, and you cannot kind of ignore it because naturally you hear it. So the first crack usually happens, and after that there's a development phase that follows the first crack. Depending on how long you're developing, you might experience the second crack. The second crack is completely different story. The second crack actually is a thing when you starting experiencing very strange shivering sound from the beans. It's like sss or something like that, and it's really much continuous. It's like never-ending sound, which usually happens in a couple of minutes after the first crack. Depending on your temperature, you might experience the second crack in 2 or 3 minutes after the first crack, and it might be that you are experiencing the first crack finishes. After a couple of seconds, you'll start experiencing the second crack. So be mindful. Try to differentiate these two cracks, because first crack is always popping sound. The second crack is more or less is like a shivering sound actually, and it really kind of a sign that you should stop already your roast, because if you are continuing roasting beans or developing actually beans after the second crack, you might overburn them and they will become overdeveloped actually beans, and it's going to be like dark roast, totally dark roast. It could be, you know, completely fresh French or Vienna roasts, but in the end I would not very much recommend the second crack for those who are just starting the roasting beans, because having a second crack is a very much a thing that you should be really careful about, to be honest, not over burn the beans. So in that sense, actually, there are two main things, the main factors. First of all, try to experience the first crack at the 160 and 170, something like that in between, and try to develop beans for a couple of minutes, and if you start experiencing the second crack, it's more or less a shivering sound. Try to stop your roasting, because actually this is a sign that you should be quitting the roasting. If you are just starting your career in the roasting beans, if you are a very good professional, naturally, I think you can go more than second crack and try to figure out what is the best roast of the dark roast for you, and what kind of Vienna or French roast do you really love. So the second crack is important actually for that roast. So this is it, guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'm really glad that I can really share my knowledge. I'll keep on roasting coffee beans for more times. I have bought already some other varieties of coffee beans, like Nicaragua, like Peru, like Guatemala actually. So I'll keep you in the loop what is happening with these beans, because I'm really a fresh roaster and I really enjoy this process. So stay tuned, guys, and let's keep in touch.